Another thing that they did is, and here, Michael, I know you remember this, and I'm having a problem. I used to call it nesting. Nesting is where we're able to collapse a whole range of audio and video clips into a single nest. They've made this much easier inside Final Cut Pro 10, where it could be called a composite clip. I failed to look up all of my terminology before I got here. But if I double click it, it unnests and I see all of my individual clips. And if I click it again, it then collapses and I can then move that nest and everything stays in sync. It is nesting, but it's nesting with a much more elegant interface than we've had before. The other thing that I find interesting is a further, and Randy illustrated this on his stage presentation, is that they have built in things like the cropping tool, and we're able to do cropping, or we're able to do image positioning by simply clicking and dragging on it inside the canvas. So that although there is a tool palette, as we see over here, many times you just simply click on the appropriate button over here and you're manipulating it without having to double click the clip to load it into the viewer, go to the motion tab, select the appropriate parameter and make changes to it. So the first thing that we've seen is a much more refined interface. We see much deeper integration of metadata. We see a rethinking of how we deal with all the different elements that we have to put into the timeline. Several things also to notice. Notice that there is no patch panel over here on the left-hand side of the screen. Notice that there is no obvious track labeling, where we would drop a clip to track V3 or track V4. There's simply tracks above or below. I don't know yet how we're supposed to stack multiple clips up. There's a lot that I don't know. But this rigid structure that we've worked with in the past, where we would have all these tracks and all the different patches and being able to do audio edits and video edits and audio and video edits and all that patch panel stuff and turning the green visibility lights on and off, that's all missing in the track header over here. So first thing is a rethinking of the interface. But let's take a look at something else that I think is interesting, and that is when we go into effects. This is very interesting over here. If we go to the right, this is the effects group. And there are pre-built looks and pre-built effects. And I'm assuming by looking at this that we've got looks, we've got something that taps into photographs, we've got something that taps into music, we've got something that taps into transitions, we've got something that taps into text. And what my understanding is, what my implication is from this, is that rather than having to try to remember what a particular effect looks like, we're already working with these pictures, which give us a much easier way of seeing, that's what I'm looking for, and what I'm looking at is inside the effects category over here. By the way, this will handle up to 4K images, so it does standard def to 4K, does it in real time. You don't need to transcode, edits H.264 natively, edits HDV natively. It is optimized around ProRes, so for those of you that have a ProRes workflow, that's absolutely the best way to work, but Apple has stressed over and over background rendering, background generation of effects, real-time everything, utilization of the graphics card, utilization of multi-cores, utilization of as much memory as is on your computer. So all the stuff that we've wanted to have checked off for a long period of time is now available to us. One more thing to show you, and then I want to do some speculating. And that is color integration. One of the new pieces of the demo that Randy did is there's a lot of automatic tools in here. Automatic tools in and of themselves are not bad, but automatic tools that can't be overridden can be a problem. And this is a really good question for somebody to ask, and I'll just tell you the answer right now. I don't know the answer. But one of the things that it does is it goes through is on ingest, it will look at an image, and if it is a shaky image, it will automatically dial in image stabilization. If it's shot with a HDSLR camera and you've got a rolling shutter issue, it will automatically correct for the rolling shutter. If you have an image which is not color corrected, it was shot because you forgot to white balance the camera or shot in the wrong color light, it will automatically recognize the fact that the color balance is wrong, and it will dial in an automatic color correction. Now, I'm of about 7 different minds about this. Having worked with the color corrector 3-way filter inside Final Cut since version something or another, its ability to set black point has never worked, so automatic is not necessarily a good thing. But let us just take as a statement for right now the fact it's at least trying to help us with some of the most obvious tasks that we have. What this screenshot does not show, and what the February demo did not show, but what Randy Ubelos did show on stage at the Supermeet, was with this color corrector, this is the new, I'm going to call it the 3-way color corrector. It has 3 tabs here. Let me zoom in so you can see this a little bit better. We have the ability to adjust color. We have the ability to adjust saturation. We have the ability to adjust grayscale. And we have the ability to adjust the color by highlights, by midtones, by shadows, or make a global adjustment. This is the ability to change black level color settings, grayscale color settings, and highlight color settings. And what Randy was able to do is he selected an image. He then did a secondary color correction by drawing a shape around a person's face, adjusted the feathering for that person's shape, and did a color correction both inside and outside the secondary color correction inside Final Cut without the use of any other third-party tool. This is a significant step up from where we are now with the 3-way color corrector, and leads me to think that there's a lot to expect from being able to directly manipulate that level of detail inside the clip. So those are the these screenshots, by the way, were provided to me by Apple the night of the Supermeet when I was writing my blog on the 1700 JAWS dropping. Now I'd like, if I can, I want to indulge in a little bit of speculation, and I need to set some boundaries on this. When I went up to Cupertino in February, Apple required, and I was happy to sign, a non-disclosure that prevents me from talking about material which Apple has not yet made public. Nothing would please me more than to violate that NDA and share with you information that we all want to know. But I don't know what the final form of Final Cut is. I really don't. I don't know because the Final Cut final version is still in process. It's still being developed in Cupertino, which is why it's shipping in June and it's not shipping in April. I have been given permission to talk about anything that I saw at the Supermeet. I've been given permission to talk about anything that I talked with the Apple executives about downstage at the end of the Supermeet, and anything which was revealed as part of any public presentation or talk that Apple has made. But there are some things that Apple has not yet shared publicly that I can't talk about, and I apologize to you. And it's like showing candy to a kid and saying you can't have it, and I'm as sympathetic to you as I am to anybody. But here's my take. My first take is there's some, the other cool thing is with this, I can tell you this. There's one of the very, very, very cool things that I thought was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen until I thought about it, and I thought it's very cool. It's called the magnetic timeline. And I came up with a really good analogy for this. For those of you that saw the Harry Potter movie, you remember the Knight's bus that's careening through the streets of London, and the buildings would get out of the way as the bus is moved? That's the magnetic timeline. I grab this clip, I don't care where anything else is located. I drag that clip, and clips get out of the way. I can't overwrite audio. I can't overwrite video. It's like, oh, he's coming, get out of the way, and it just moves. It's really cool. naturally, this is of value only to people that never change their minds about how they edit, and I edit perfectly the first take, so I'm sure I would never use that, but it's a killer feature to demo. But here's the speculation. Apple absolutely did not talk about, pointedly did not talk about, any other application except Final Cut Pro. There's not been word one about Motion or Color or Compressor or Soundtrack Pro or any of the other applications in the suite. Not a word. Second, Apple announced the price of Final Cut as $299 available through the Mac store, which means that they've unbundled the suite. This means that there is still pricing that we don't know, availability that we don't know, features that we don't know about whatever the other applications are that are going to magically appear. One of the first habits that all of us have is they didn't mention my favorite feature, therefore my favorite feature must not be there, therefore they're ignoring me, therefore I'm going to start walking in front of large moving trucks. This is a bit hasty. All we know for sure is that Apple has not talked about it yet. Anyone that thinks they are ready to upgrade based upon what they've seen is making as equally hasty a decision as someone who looks at this and says, I will never upgrade because it's missing, or I haven't learned about, or I haven't seen X. All of us have to adopt a wait-and-see attitude for two reasons. One, it's not available. And even if it was, I would still recommend that we have to hear more from Apple before we make a final decision. So we don't know about any of the supporting applications. Apple has been very, very non-forthcoming on what's happening with effects. Apple has not said anything in any of its conversations about things that are of interest to all of us, like supported video formats, media management, how it works with existing applications, how it works with existing project files, the sort of stuff that we live with on a daily basis. Apple has not said. That does not mean that it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that Apple hasn't thought about it. It just means that Apple has not yet chosen to share that information. There's really three things. There's really two ways we could go with this. I wrote in my first blog, I've told Apple, because they've asked my opinion, and I've written a lot of my thoughts and shared it with them. And I wrote it in my second blog.